let's not stand on ceremony here. As you know, like I know, that the Alabama Crimson Tide showed up to Tiger Stadium, a.k.a. Death Valley, and murdered LSU's opportunity to make the college football playoff. There's no getting around that. This was a butt whooping like you read about. I did not expect this game to be as lopsided as it ends up being. I mean, it's 35-6 when they pulled the starters. Then Richard Young said, "No, I got to go get mines," and he went and got his. So we're talking about 6 rushing touchdowns against LSU, 4 from the quarterback in Jalen Milroe, who had 12 for 185, which is just ridiculous on its face. But for me, it was more of what Jalen Milroe was doing to LSU that Blake Baker and that defense just could not be bothered to stop. And it wasn't as if we hadn't seen other teams do this to LSU. They hadn't uncovered something that we thought was brand new. We thought, okay, cool. Lenore Sellers is able to run on you, LSU. Maybe that's something you want to get fixed. Maybe you want to learn how to spot a quarterback. Maybe you want to learn how to stop the quarterback from running all up and down on you. And they said, nah, we got it because we got the win against South Carolina, right? And they keep that up. They take the loss to USC, and then they start off undefeated in SEC play to get to A&M. It feels like they really got A&M where they want them with Connor Wigman at quarterback when Colin Klein says, hey, no. Enough of this. We just going to run the 8-man. You know what the 8-man is? Some of y'all not from rural states, so I'm going to let y'all know what the 8-man is. The 8-man is football. It's 8-man football. It's 8-a-side. We even got 6-man football in some parts of the country, right? Not so much in Oklahoma, but Nebraska, you know what I'm saying? And the 8-man, though, the 8-man is cool because the 8-man, it just be Pee Wee football, but in high school, where you just going to give the football to your best player and tell him, hey, run around, make something happen. And he's going to be like, you want me to throw the ball? No. You ain't got to do none of that. None of that. You take toss sweep, toss to yourself. You know, fullback dive, you the fullback. You know what I'm saying? Counter, you the running back. You know, think of every single player as all-time quarterback, all-time QB, that's you. Except we ain't got to throw the ball to nobody ever because it's just going to be the you show. And that's what Jalen Milroe turned LSU into for him. Hey, look here. I know that Alabama goes as I go. I realize that Alabama is only as good as Jalen Milroe's going to be. But tonight, Jalen Milroe just decided it was personal. He got tired of the way that some of us were talking about him. So they go from a 34-0 stomping out of Missouri to a 42-6 stomping out of LSU. But what kind of shocks me about this is they can do this. Like, they were up 28-0 against Georgia team that we no longer think is one of the 2-3 best teams in the country. All right, cool. But at the time, we didn't know that, right? At the time, we like, nah, Georgia's still them. And then you get to see what he was doing to everybody else. He's got 16 rushing TDs this year. He shattered Jalen Hurts' rushing record. He's had 8 rushing touchdowns against LSU the last 2 years. He had 299 yards of offense in this game alone. The man has been hitting him upside the head for 4 bills. And there's nothing they can do about it. You know, you fired the defense coordinator from last year. You bring in Blake Baker, and all Blake can do is go, hey, I ain't got no Harold Perkins. It's not head, but you get what I'm saying. I ain't got no Harold Perkins. But you know what? It don't matter. I got Whit Weeks. And it turns out Whit Weeks ain't the problem. And the linebackers ain't the problem. Not having Harold Perkins ain't the problem. Problem is, once Jalen Milroe got out to the numbers, you had nothing. Nobody. Zip. BD, doodah, zippity day. I was trying to figure this one out, right? Like I'm trying to find out just what it is that turns Alabama on or turns Alabama off. And this weekend being the first college football playoff elimination Saturday that we've seen, put these programs into very interesting positions. Number one, we're not used to seeing Alabama and LSU each have 2 losses by the time they play this game in November. We're just not used to that. We had been spoiled by, right, frankly, Alabama's Nick Saban and LSU's Les Miles and even Ed Orgeron in there in the mix. And yet still, we're looking at this one going, wait, one of these 2 teams could still end up winning the SEC championship. But we know that the loser of this game not only can't win the SEC championship, but they're probably not going to make the college football playoff because we only got 12 spots. And while it's never been more democratic to make the college football playoff, and it's never felt more like anybody can make it, this game had implications that it's never had before. Like, we've seen Alabama, LSU play this game and then play each other in a national championship. It's happened. That's gone out the window when you got 2 losses here. So the question going into this weekend was which one of these programs was most likely to play like their back was against the wall. And it turned out to be the Crimson Tide. And it turned out to be Jalen Milroe. And I'm sure that it drives Tide fans crazy to know this, but when Milroe is on, you are the best team in college football. That's how it feels. It feels like when Milroe has it working for him, running and passing, there is nobody more lethal on a football field because he can make it all happen. We could talk about Ashton Genty. We could talk about Cam Ward. We could talk about Dylan Gabriel. We could talk about Travis Hunter. We could talk about Jeremiah Smith. We could even talk about Ryan Williams. But nobody has a greater effect on their team winning or losing than Jalen Milroe. When he throws the ball to other people like he did against Tennessee, they lose the football game. That's what that is. When he throws the ball to other people like they did against Vanderbilt, they lose the football game. But in this game where you don't actually have to have him throw much at all, he's 12 of 18 for 109, it doesn't matter because he's averaging 15.4 yards per rush as the quarterback. That can't happen if you're an LSU defense. It can't happen. And yet here it is, 42-13 at the end of this thing, but it's 42-6, so the garbage time TD is still the garbage time TD, and I get all of that. But you also had a defense from Kane Womack that had its hair on fire. They held LSU, a team that I thought was going to put up about 450, 500 yards of offense in this game, 343. And Garrett Nussmeier to 27 of 42 for 239, 2 picks, and a TD. Jahad Campbell all over the place, right? The corners at Alabama are as young as the corners at LSU, but the caliber of player has just been that much better. If you are LSU, what do you do, right? That's the question. And it is, can you recruit? Can you recruit with Bama? Can you recruit with Texas? Can you recruit with Ole Miss? And by recruit, I mean you're going to have to pay some people. Like, the days of coaches saying we don't pay people to come here, they're gone. Because these results will not stand for your boosters. They're not going to let you not just lose to Alabama, but get embarrassed at home by Alabama. Like the whole Brian Kelly's undefeated in night games, that's gone. That torn asunder tonight. The bit about, LSU is going to get back against Bama. Since when? Since how? Every time Bama seems to come down to LSU, Bama ends up handing them an L. Like, that's how that seems to go. And now Milroe gets to say, look, after all this, after all that, it's still Alabama, very much in the college football playoffs conversation, very much in the SEC championship conversation. Don't know whether or not they're going to end up at Atlanta, but with results like this and the way that they did this result, the rankings are just going to be interesting. Because even myself, I got some real important questions to answer about where I'm going to put teams in the top 25 that I make later tonight that you can read on foxsports.com. And I got to tell you, man, I don't know where LSU is going to be, but are they a better football team than Georgia? It's an interesting question to ask right now. Like, right, dead ass, who is the number 3 team in the country is a question that we need to answer. And it ain't Alabama, but Alabama ain't going to be that far from it.